小鳥くんから伝言よ。卵のこと教えてあげるって。
The secret is not to buy these things as they're just rip-off gachas. We open this one with Amu recapping the events of the first episode, as is kind of obligatory when you're just starting a new show. Of course, Ron was excited over her big moment from that episode, which, FYI, that actually wasn't in the original manga. Yeah, in the first chapter, there was no Kanai, as the situation where Amu needed Ron's help was different. They likely changed it for the anime to give a bit of a stronger hook for it, as well as changed a bit of her first encounter with Ikto, which I won't show here, otherwise we might get demonetized. That said, both versions are actually quite good in their own right, and it's actually worth checking out both mediums, as there are going to be significant changes, especially in these first few episodes, that we won't go over all of them and just mention here because otherwise it would take up a lot of time. Either way, while Ron did end up saving Amu's life, she kind of understandably didn't forgive her for ruining her social life with her forced confession. Fortunately, this is back in the good old days when cringe was a widespread concept, and Amu's classmates actually found her confession to be rather admirable, ignoring the awkwardness of it all. This led to a pretty wholesome moment for Amu that was quickly interrupted by another member of this school's overreaching Seitokai. The Queen's Chair of the Guardians, Nadeshiko, had arrived to talk with her. And yes, I know about her later developments, but let's save talking about that until we actually get there, because once we do, we're gonna have to walk on some eggshells, so let's enjoy it while we still can. Anyway, Nadeshiko gave Amu an invitation to the royal garden where they held their meetings after school. Amu was a little hesitant to go, which was understandable as they were kind of giving off some cult vibes, but she still needed to return to Humpty Lock, and she was still simping hard for Tadase. They also took this time to establish how Shugo, which is also the name of the fairies of the show, weren't able to be seen by normal people. This of course made it convenient when Ron felt like helping Amu during PE. Don't worry, you got this, Amu! Clean up near the monkey bars? Nah, of course, kinda changes, as we'll learn later, do kind of have the side effect of turning their users superhuman, so her knees didn't shatter like Edge trying to deliver an elbow drop from the top of the cage. Seriously, Adam, at your age, you really should stop that. Though understandably, Amu didn't like being made to look like a fool even though everyone else did see it as such, including the kid she saved in the first episode, who, we'll see a little bit more later. Later, they discovered that the blue egg had escaped, and that they would have to look for it, much to Amu's frustration, as it meant that she might miss out on her invite to see Tadase again. All of this made her want to cut ties with these troublesome little imps. However, she'd soon want their help once art class started. Funny, you don't look like a mentally unstable drummer. But yeah, after making, honestly, kind of typical drawing for her grade year, I could only draw stick figures back then myself, the blue egg decided to help and let her draw the freaking Mona Lisa. Keep that drawing as far away as possible from this man, because otherwise, well, I won't say anything unless you haven't seen JoJo. Anyway, Amu and Ran gave chase to the blue artistic Shugo known as Miki. Appropriately being the opposite to Ron's red heart, the blue spade character was her polar opposite in personality, being level-headed and focused. So basically, she represented Amu's desire to be the cool and spicy girl, as that always was a genuine part of her personality, even if it was incidental at times. However, she was avoiding her owner for supposedly good reason. So you decide to run away from her and essentially sign your own death warrant? Like, even if they were trying to go for the symbolism of the Shugo running away, like how Amu was running away from finding her true self, Ron never ran. That's kind of a pun. So I'm not totally sure why Miki was, especially after helping Amu. Maybe she was trying to go out on her own terms. It wasn't made too clear, but honestly, whatever. It was still interesting, like learning how the Shugo had the ability to unlock the full potential of their owner's corresponding desires, which in this case basically meant maxing out their stats. And while all this magical stuff wasn't selling Amu all that much, she was still a good enough person that she didn't want them to disappear, so they all made amends in the most tsundere way possible. With all that stuff out of the way, Amu was finally able to go to the Royal Garden. There she was introduced to the rest of the Guardians and their respective Shugo Chara. We'll save talking about these fairies for another day, as this review is kind of going long, and they don't even talk in this episode, and just introduce the Jack and Ace, Kukai, and Yaya. The former was your typical shonen slash light novel protag, and the latter will get on your nerves after a while, but more on that some other time. Regardless, the whole damn group was kind of shady.
あなたのことは何でも知ってるわ。生徒の個人情報を管理するのがガーディアンの役目ですから。
So just do as we say, or else we'll have to dox your ass.
Anyway, Tadase also introduced one of the more important plot points with the Heart's Egg picture book, which basically told the tale that the English intro always spoke of. However, this particular book had lost a lot of its resale value for a certain reason.
ページが破れてる。
Worst of all is the fact that the girl who promised to finish the story forgot and pretty much ditched it. But yeah, supposedly, the first king of the Guardians wrote it, and of course likely ran a student console made of Shugo Chara owners as well. Thus, the current Guardians were trying to maintain that tradition by bringing together everyone like them. They especially needed all the help they could get, as particularly depressed kids would sometimes produce what were called X-eggs that could cause havoc, aka Monster of the Week. With that, they of course wanted the triple Shugo Chara owner in Amu aboard, but she didn't want to join for one specific reason.
ロイヤルケープ着るのが嫌だから。私のファッション哲学と美意識に反するし。
Well, I see someone is a subscriber to Etna Emotes magazine.
Thus she ran off, forgetting that she still needed to return the lock. However, that would soon turn out to be for the best, as she ran into that kid again named Suzuki. He was trying to do the bars after failing during gym class and being unintentionally shown up by Amu. Apparently, he was trying to get top grades in every subject to achieve his dream of becoming the president of an IT company, which, yeah, kid, it's cute to have big dreams and all, but maybe lower your expectations a scoosh. Because when your dreams are too big, failures hit that much harder. Not helping matters was an obviously evil dude who had previously followed around Amu and was now inducing the XA conversion. With that, we got our first Monster of the Week fight, and as a result, our first proper transformation for the series. Yeah, if you ever wondered where Madoka Magica got inspiration for some of its sequences, I do think it was at least partially because of this show. Granted, I haven't found any confirmation of this, but still, it's a good classic magical girl transformation, with Amu being imbued with a bright light, and her magical outfit forming on her. It wasn't anything too flashy or crazy, but still an effective enough sequence, with stuff like this bit of her falling to earth being kind of impressive. Anyway, this first form that came from combining with Ron was known as Amulet Heart, because get it, Amu, Amulet, heh. And of course, they would follow the pattern of having card game suits, but again, more on that later. For now though, it was time for her very first fight, and it's gone! Yeah, pretty much right after transformation, she just went into her finisher. Now, to be fair, it was kind of justified on the grounds that the X-egg still hadn't hatched, and we are still early into the series.
I mean, it is just the second episode of the series, so it does get kind of a pass. Now, Precure series that are into their third quarters, not so much.
Also, yeah, we'll talk more about the finishers when we get to at least the second one of the series, but for now, it was pretty basic because, again, first season and all that. With that though, Suzuki's egg was saved, and to show his appreciation, he named himself as her #1 stan. And the episode ended with Amu again turning down the Guardian's invitation and her third egg about to hatch.
This was a great second episode that really focused on the world building.
It quickly and yet effectively established all of the important plot points and rules of this world.
As a result, its first technical fight of the series was nothing much at all, but it's a worthy sacrifice. Plus, as we'll see as the series goes on, it's not exactly Precure in terms of action, which is fine.
I think a good general pattern for most hero shows, be it for girls or boys, is to do most of, if not all of your central world building in the second episode. The first episode is more for your general character introductions, and the second should establish the world and rules they need to abide by. It's kind of why I think Kamen Rider Zates actually kind of fumbled with its intro by not explaining everything until like the third episode, and why this show succeeded with flying colors. We have a good idea of what Amu's mission is going forward, and how she'll go about fixing everything. All the while, we learn more about her, and we're even introduced to her second Shugo, Chara, who really highlight the concept of how people do have rather complex emotions that aren't just locked to one archetype, even though the rest of the Guardians, for the most part, will only ever have one Shugo, Chara. But again, that's a discussion for another day. It gives us enough world building to give us a good grasp on the concepts, whilst also keeping things intriguing and encouraging us to come back for more. It makes this overall a very effective second episode focused on world building. Amu might have refused to call for now, but for most viewers, they would end up coming back for a whole lot more.
Thanks for watching, and in case you're wondering why there was a Princessian Orchestra review this week, well, it was just a clip show, so there was nothing to review. That said, our review schedule will be changed up a little this week, as we are adding Toshima Wants to Be a Comrade in, which means that Precure and Princessia will both be moved a day ahead. Still, look forward to it. Until then, though, farewell for now, my friends, and
No kicks!
no, Edna, that's not a cape, it's just a really long coat. I think it looks cool.